What's up guys, it's Tommy here and welcome to a brand new football news video. And the Premier League proposed a brand new idea on how to finish this season, and this could be a mega World Cup event where all the teams are together in a training camp, isolated from the outside world, and all 92 games could be televised live and of course be played behind closed doors in a mega event. And even the UK government is supporting this idea because they want people to stay indoors and to have something to watch on the TV, some live sports to keep them occupied. So what do you think about this idea? And we will break it down in detail, what this means and how this could be implemented in reality. And I would love this if this happened over the summer, because we are in desperate need of watching some football. And if it's safe and healthy to do so for the players, if they can isolate them for maybe a month, and just like a training camp, but a much stricter training camp than the World Cup training camps, then I think this could happen. And the Independent newspaper has a very detailed article on this, saying that these plans have been drawn up to televise all remaining 92 matches, with a handful of matches basically being televised every single day, which would be awesome. I think every team could play twice a week, which I think could be feasible, but you could rotate the games. So maybe every day there are 2 or 3 games televised, and that would be just perfect, because basically who would not love a 1 month Premier League mega event where every day you could have 2 games to watch, and you are already sitting at home in self-isolation, so it would be just the perfect to entertain the crowds and to also not lose that 800 million pound TV money that the clubs would have to pay back if the season was cancelled, if the season was voided. So let's actually hear the actual proposer, and we will also talk about how the non-league clubs, 66 of them, sent open letters to the FA over the cancellation of the seasons of non-league football below the 6th tier or something like that. So the Premier League is developing these plans for clubs to play televised games in isolated World Cup style camps. This could be hosted in the Midlands and in London over June and July, in order to try and finish the 2019 and 20 season. The football authorities have been in discussion about the ideas over the weekends, and with games behind closed doors still seen as the likeliest and probably the only solution at the moment of how you can play any sport. All the players need to be tested before this event, and then they need to be isolated in this World Cup style camp, but with a much stricter rule that you can't really go outside the camp until the tournament is over. And then you would have doctors monitoring the player's situation, but it would be very, very difficult, because if one player still somehow gets sick, then you would have to isolate almost everyone who gets into contact with that player. And being a closed training camp and having games every day with a 2-week isolation, it would be very difficult, and it could basically collapse the whole tournament. But yeah, that's just one of the concerns. The huge broadcasting contracts and other financial concerns have increased the pressure on clubs to complete the season, but one considerable advantage to that idea is that this would be like a TV mega event. It is this aspect that has drawn increased government backing, that the players and basically the whole infrastructure would be isolated, and nobody could get in and out until the tournament or the whole competition is over. And the government supports this idea because they like the idea of a population basically being occupied with watching this on TV. So the lockdown measures are tightened and extended. In order to complete the plan, the clubs and their staffs would be confined to separate hotels away from their families, just like in an international tournament, with full testing and quarantine conditions. The aim is to reduce the risk of them contracting the disease as even one case could derail the whole plan, the whole tournament. That is why the idea is for games to take place in June and July, when a more rigorous testing system is likely to be in place, and hopefully by that time the worst of this situation will be over. And also, if you get easier and faster testing available by then, where there are tests which can get a diagnosis as quickly as 15 minutes to 1 hour, then you can quickly test the players straight before they are playing the games, and that way you can basically prevent any further problems arising from this. And of course, it is not just clubs that would have to be confined to these bases, but also the match officials, the referees, the linesmen, everybody else, the cameraman, and the outside broadcast crews, as well as of course having some medical officials that are ultimately at these non-official events. It's a moral issue of like, do you occupy too many medical officials when the hospitals would need them most? But I think it would prevent too many medical personnel to be in these events if you host it all at one place, because that way you don't have to send medical people to all over the country to each and every stadium. I think it would be really feasible. Where does a player who does his, he does get injured, where will he go after he's stretched off? That's one big question. Hospitals, we have much bigger concerns right now than playing football or treating footballers who get injured. The Premier League would almost have to have a private hospital blocked off, and that could be feasible. I mean, the Premier League can definitely do it because it has the money and the resources to basically hire private medical people, and they could build like a small private hospital just in case somebody gets a serious injury and they have to be treated. And both logistically and politically, the June-July period is seen as much more feasible, and then trying this in April or May. The optimistic view is that curve, that famous curve that we are talking about many times, will have flattened by then, and there will also be considerable political backing behind the plan. A cultural event as big as the Premier League returning would be seen as a big step in the return to normality, as well as a psychological boost to the English nation. But there is also the competition's part in getting the economy moving, especially given the size of the TV event. The games would be deriving industries from advertising. But the problem is, like, you have to be very careful with this, because normally when you have live Premier League games, friends like to get together to watch their team, especially with Liverpool having the potential of winning their first title in 30 years. You have to be careful not to have too many people coming together and watching those games. So it's a very two-edged sword, if you like. So the Midlands could be one solution, or London, the St. George's Park, I heard they have like 13 or 14 football pitches next to each other, so you could even play games simultaneously in the same location. The current feeling is that everything is on the table in order to get the games played. This World Cup base idea had been mooted when the Premier League was initially postponed at the start of March, but it is one that the clubs have kept coming back to, and it has been given more shape in the last few days. It is generally accepted that nothing will get off the ground, however, until testing is more widespread. So this is a very interesting, and I think possibly or potentially the most viable solution to this current problem. And of course, at the moment, like finishing the Premier League and playing football, that's not the most important. Saving lives, staying indoors, staying healthy, trying to prevent this problem to get a much bigger and a much worse problem is the utmost priority for everyone around the world. But of course, this channel is about football, and I'm a Liverpool fan, so we have to talk about some solutions, and I would love to hear what you think about these plans, because I think this is very interesting. And of course, Sky Sports and BT Sport has concerns how they could go about their business when there is virtually no sport. Not just football is suspended, but all sport is suspended in almost every single country. I think the only professional football league which is not suspended is in Belarus. And it's weird to see that everybody is not playing football, while in Belarus there are stadiums full of people playing football there. The Belarusian Premier League started like 2 weeks ago. They already completed like 2 match days. And it doesn't feel right. It feels quite wrong that they still have fans in the stadium and everything. And yes, they don't have a lot of cases, but I think that won't help the issue, in my opinion, and they will probably get a lot more cases because of that. And I think it's a very serious proposition, and the Premier League and also the FA, I think, wants the professional leagues to be finished, because it opens a lot of very, very difficult, very serious issues if the seasons are not finished. And whenever it's safe to do so, I would say just finish this Premier League season. Starting next season without finishing this one doesn't make sense, in a whole variety of reasons. We already talked about that in detail on this channel. But I also want to talk about a very interesting thing, that it's not often you see a Manchester City player praising Liverpool and wanting good things happen to Liverpool. But that's exactly what happened, because İlkay Gündoğan was asked on a German TV station what he thinks, and he answered that he thinks Liverpool should be handed the Premier League title even if this current season can't continue, can't be finished, even if the current season is voided somehow. He reckons that Liverpool's 25-point lead makes it only fair that we are made champions without officially securing it or mathematically securing it. He told this TV station, for me that would be okay to hand Liverpool the Premier League title even if the season can't be finished, can't be completed, even if the season is null and void. Liverpool should get the Premier League title, because you have to be fair as a sports person. And I have a lot of admiration for İlkay Gündoğan. He used to play under Jurgen Klopp, but I don't think he's saying that because of that. I think he's saying that because that's the right thing to say. If the situation was reversed and Manchester City were 25 points clear of Liverpool, I would have no problem saying that Manchester City should get the title. And I think many Liverpool players and even the Liverpool manager would have no problem saying that Manchester City should be crowned champions. This is like the last resort. If everything gets a lot worse and it just can't be completed for like almost a whole year, that's the only way that I would say that you should void the season. If the Premier League can't be completed until like next summer, that's the only way I would say it doesn't make sense to continue it, because you have like one whole year that elapsed between the end of like the postponement of the Premier League and the continuing. But I don't think you have to wait 1 year until the situation gets better enough to play football. There is very, very strong will on both sides. Both the clubs and the Premier League want this season to be finished, except some people, and one of them is Harry Kane, who actually said, and I mean, I didn't like Harry Kane before this, but now I don't like him even more, if that's possible, because Harry Kane was giving an Insta Live, and he said that if the Premier League season cannot be finished by the end of June, then the season should be cancelled. And of course he's saying that because Tottenham are sitting in 8th place, like 4 or 5 points behind 4th place, and 4 points behind 5th place, I think, and Tottenham's season is just going downhill. I think what he wants is the Premier League season to be cancelled. They have to restart the Premier League season basically next season, which would mean that Tottenham would play in the Champions League. At this stage, Tottenham are not even playing European football next season. But also, Harry Kane said that he won't stay at Tottenham for the sake of staying Tottenham, and unless the team is competitive and unless he thinks that Tottenham are capable of winning trophies, he won't just stay at Tottenham until he retires. This is what Harry Kane told Jamie Redknapp in that Insta Live. It's a hard one. I know the Premier League are going to do everything they can to finish this season, and they are going to look at every option possible. My personal opinion, I think we need to try and finish the season. We need to do everything to try and finish it, but there needs to be a point where enough is enough, and we have to say we cannot finish it. Going into July, going into August, and then pushing next season back, I don't really see too much benefit in that. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but what it means financially for certain clubs and things like that. But from a player's point of view, by all means, we need to try and finish it as much as possible. But there needs to be a limit. Probably the limit for me is the end of June. If it isn't completed by that time, we almost have to say, look at the options and look forward to next season. And of course, he doesn't see too much benefit in finishing the season because Tottenham are in mid-table. I mean, you just couldn't write this stuff. This is just ridiculous how Harry Kane is saying stuff like this. I mean, I don't really want to talk too much about it, but I think if he was in Liverpool, if he was a Liverpool player, Harry Kane, and God forbid, I don't even want to talk about that thought, but if he was in a position where, like Tottenham were at the top of the table, he would never in a million years say things like this. That's my opinion. And also, big news, the FA decided to basically cancel almost all of the non-league divisions, and the 66 non-league clubs are sending open and quite angry and frustrated and disappointed letters to the FA over the cancellation of their season, and I'm fully in support of them. And they are calling urgently to reconsider the decision to cancel the seasons. And some members of the British Parliament have also told clubs that they will write to the Department for Digital Culture, Media and Sport asking for intervention, as this is a hugely disappointing, frustrating, upsetting decision. And this is what the letter actually said. Our concern is grounded primarily in the needless and inexplicable haste exercise in reaching the decision, coupled with the total lack of dialogue or consultation with affected clubs. And that is what bothers me the most, just my opinion. The fact that they haven't even had a dialogue, a discussion with the clubs who this directly affects. And I don't care it's non-league, and I don't care it's not like a professional league, but still many people put their hard-earned money, their time, lot of hard work, sweat and tears into working through this season, and the season is like 75-80% completed, and that one club who won 27 out of 27 games, and they are already mathematically champions and got promoted to the higher division, to tell them that this was all for nothing and this was basically a season which never happened, it just blows my mind. It's beyond belief that you can make a decision when this situation is just getting started and you don't know when the season can be finished, but it could be finished in June, July. Maybe the situation will be much better then. Why make a decision now? It just doesn't make any sense to me, in all honesty. And the letter continues, this decision also disregards the millions of pounds invested and countless hours expended collectively by clubs, and so has critical financial implications. In writing this joint letter, we recognize that the decision to expunge results for this season still pends official ratification from the FA Council. However, we believe it is unacceptable that such a decision has been handed down to us in this manner. We urgently seek constructive dialogue with the FA with the aim to have the decision reconsidered, and I fully support and I fully agree with this decision, because this is yes, it's challenging and unprecedented circumstances for English football, but I still think that more dialogue, more discussion should have taken place even before making this decision. And the FA are now under serious pressure from a lot of non-league clubs, and I fully support this letter, and I fully support the FA hopefully cancelling that decision and just postpone the season until further notice. And when it's 100% certain that you can't safely and healthily complete the season, that's when you should cancel it, not at the beginning of this whole break in football. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day. See you later, guys. Goodbye.